Hey there, Lisa here. Welcome to my channel. I hope you'll join me in my love of crafting and DIYs and hit that subscribe button. It's 5 under 5 time, and this video is part of that collaboration, which is hosted each month by Missy from Crafty Cove DIY, Emily from Farm Charm Chic, and this month's guest host is Dawn from Designs by Gaddis. All three ladies' channels, as well as the playlist, will be linked in my description box. So grab some popcorn and a drink of your choice and get ready to see some inspiration for your Easter decor. Supplies needed to make this hoppy Easter sign is a bunny form from the Dollar Tree, $1.25, a napkin, paint, flowers, hot glue, lettering. I did use the Cricut, but you could use stickers or transfers or stencils, and Mod Podge. Total $1.25. For this project, I'm going to use one of these bunny forms from the Dollar Tree. I picked this up last year, but I think that they had similar ones this year. They actually had some white ones that were really cool. But anyhow, so I'm just taking a piece of painter's tape because I am going to paint the bottom section white. And I'm just going to do one coat with white chalk paint. And this is just so that I have a nice white surface to put a napkin on. While my paint was drying, I took this napkin and I am going to cut it out using my water paintbrush. And this just makes it so that the edges aren't super sharp. They blend into the wood just a little bit better this way when you apply it with Mod Podge. So the paint that I was using was a little bit old, and so I had some areas that needed sanded down so that it was nice and smooth. So that is what I am doing here. You could probably skip this step if your paint is good and new. Once the paint was good and dry, I took a piece of painter's tape and now I am just going to tape it in the reverse because we are going to paint the top portion as well. I applied a brown paint with a baby wipe to get the look of antique wax, but without using the antique wax because I am going to put vinyl on his ears, and I just wanted to use the cheap vinyl rather than the heat transfer vinyl. Once everything was good and dry, I took and applied a coat of Mod Podge over the whole bottom portion of the rabbit. Once that Mod Podge had dried, I laid down my napkin and then I covered it with parchment paper, and we are going to use this little mini iron to press the napkin down into the Mod Podge. And this sort of reactivates that Mod Podge and gives you a pretty flawless look. Then there was a couple things that went over the edge, so I just took a fingernail file and filed those off. I cut out Hoppy Easter on my Cricut, and I am just going to apply those. I'm going to apply Hoppy to his left ear there, and then Easter to the right ear. To embellish him a little bit, I took these little flowers that I had off of a pick, and I am just cutting off the stems as I'm going to glue them, and I wanted them as flush as I could get them. And so I took 3 of the white, 2 pink, and 2 blue, and cut down the stems on all of those. Then using the hot glue gun, I just put a dab of hot glue on each one and I glued them down. I started by gluing the one in the middle, and then I glued the 2 white ones on the ends, and then I filled in with the blue and the pink. Actually more of a peach, but it's the closest thing I had. To hang the rabbit, I took this new pretty trim that they have at the Dollar Tree, and I am just going to use this one, and I just take a length of it off and then fold it and place it through the hole. Then I'm just going to trim off the edges, and then I just take and fold it over on itself and hot glue it shut. Finally, I took this little bow that I had in my stash. It came off another little Dollar Tree decor piece at one time or another, and I just hot glued it on and then just trimmed up the ends to the length that I wanted them. And we are calling this project done. I'll show you it up close at the end of the video. Supplies needed to make this decoupaged bunny is a styrofoam bunny I picked up at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. The tissue paper also came from the Dollar Tree, $1.25. Mod Podge and antique wax. Total for this project, $2.50. I was inspired to do this one by Karen at the Loft Home Decor, as she did something very similar. And so her and I share a love of this tissue paper from the Dollar Tree. It's actually why we started a tissue paper exchange collaboration. So anyhow, it just seemed fitting that I would use this tissue paper and sort of dupe something that she had done. Now, hers turns out way better, so ask her for advice. But anyways, I just had this idea that I was going to just kind of wrap this bunny in tissue paper. Somehow, I don't know why I was thinking that. Basically, what you end up having to do is cut out the pieces and sort of piece it together. Just kind of your standard decoupage rules apply. So you want to work with a white background. The bunny's already white. And then sort of tear the paper or tear it with water or something, and then do small pieces at a time. And I got a little bit in a hurry and went a little too fast, but I was unable to find another bunny to give it another shot. So we are keeping him, and in the end, he turns out okay. So I'm going to do a little bit of do as I say and not as I do here. Towards the end, I sort of get the hang of it. So you just sort of rip off a piece of tissue paper and then just apply a layer of Mod Podge and then put a layer over the top. So just kind of your basic decoupaging, rip, layer on the bottom, layer on top. And the only other thing that I did to this bunny was give him some antique wax. And I do get a little heavy-handed, but I was struggling to get it off. And so he is we're just going to say that he is a very old bunny. He has been out in the garden for a really long time. And go with it. Stick around to the end to see him all finished. Supplies needed to make this carrot sign is a frame from the Dollar Tree, $1.25. A carrot form, this is part of a decor piece from the Dollar Tree, so we're going to say about 50 cents. Tissue paper, paint and antique wax, twine carrots, hot glue, lettering, and Mod Podge. And the twine carrots, it was $1.25. I did buy these last year, and I'm not sure if they have them again this year. Total cost, $3. For this project, I took one of these carrots off of a decor piece that I had picked up from the Dollar Tree last year. They have something similar this year, but it actually doesn't have glitter on one side and I think would be way easier to work with. But I went ahead and peeled off the paper and then took the ribbon out. I gave it a try. A lot of times these aren't deep enough, and so when you sand them, it just fills the holes enough. But these were good and deep, so I ended up having to put some nail filler in them. So I did put some nail filler in them, and then once that had dried, sanded it down. Then I took this sign that I had picked up from the Dollar Tree as well at Valentine's Day, and I thought that this was going to be really easy to pop off, but it turns out it's just cardboard and it was stuck. It was way glued down. So I ended up having to scrape it off and then sand the surface to get it semi-smooth. I didn't do a super good job because I knew I was going to be covering it, but I did sand it down somewhat. Then I took and gave the carrot a coat of this orange paint. This is just the acrylic orange paint. This took, I don't know, 4 coats probably. While one of 3 coats or 4 coats was drying on the carrots, I gave the sign a coat of white chalk paint, and I do 1 coat all over. On the back I do a little thicker coat as I'm going to be Mod Podging it, but around the edges and the frame I just do a very thin light coat as I'm going to distress it. So once I get all the orange on my carrot, I get smart and I do a coat of white chalk paint so that I don't need to do as much green. And then I start with the green, and I do a little bit lighter in some areas and a little bit darker in some areas to sort of resemble the actual stem of a carrot. And once I have 1 coat done, I do another, and I do go around the edges of these as well. I forgot to mention with the orange. I take this really pretty tissue paper I just found at the Dollar Tree. I'd never seen this one before. It must be new this year. And I am going to decoupage it to the back of my frame. So I am just measuring here so that I can cut it out to fit. And then I cut it down to size. Once I get the tissue paper cut to the size I want, I go ahead and give this a coat of Mod Podge. And then I lay the tissue paper down inside and smooth it out the best that I can with my fingers. Then I take a fingernail file and I am going to distress this quite a bit. I really liked that wood underneath, and so I want to see quite a bit of it, but I also kind of just want that white chippy paint look. So I am just distressing the front and then the sides as well. Once my carrot was all good and dry, I took and just cut out the letters carrots on my Cricut, and I am just going to apply this to the carrot. I then give it a coat of matte Mod Podge, as this vinyl is really very shiny and I wanted to dull down that shine. Once that's all good and dry, I add a little bit of antique wax around the edges and across the front, just because I want this to look distressed and a little old as the frame does. And to assemble the sign, I just use hot glue and I glue down the front portion of the carrot, and then I do a dab of glue over on the stem side as well. And then to embellish this, I just added some of these little jute cord carrots that I got at the Dollar Tree last year. I did not see them this year. And that is it for this one. Stick around to the end to see it all complete. Supplies needed to make this mini reversible egg wreath include 2 mini wreaths from the Dollar Tree. They come in a pack of 2 for $1.25. Styrofoam eggs, $1.25. A wood square, 25 cents. They come in a pack of 5, maybe 6. Paint, hot glue, Spanish moss, zip ties, and lettering. I did use the Cricut, but you could use stickers or stencils or transfers. Total for this project, $2.75. For this project, I took this pack of 12 craft eggs from the Dollar Tree, and I started out by giving them paint. So I did sort of this beige color on 4 of them, and then I do a white chalk paint on another 4 of them. It actually ends up that I could have just done 2 beige and 2 white, and I will explain why when we get to that portion. So once they were good and dry, I took and I am going to cut them in half. So the full egg just wasn't, it was too big for what I am going to be doing here. And so I am going to take and cut 2 of the beige in half and 2 of the white in half so that I have 4 of each color. In hindsight, I would have skipped these eggs and I would have just kept the other eggs and decorated one half and kept the other half plain. But for time, I thought that this was going to be quicker. Turns out it ends up being a little bit longer. But basically what I'm doing is just picking out the colors I want, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull out these strings, well, actually cut them out, and then I'm going to take and cut each egg in half so that I have a total of 8, 2 of each color. Going to use one of these planks that come in a pack of 5 or 6 from the Dollar Tree, and I am just going to paint the whole thing with 1 coat of chalk paint, front, back, and sides. Again, I learned a lot from this project. If I were to do this again, I would do it very differently, but this is what I ended up doing. I ended up taking this mini wreath form from the Dollar Tree, and you get 2 wreaths for the $1.25, and I am taking this Spanish moss and I'm going to spread it all on the inside of it. Then when I get it all spread out, I take and start gluing my eggs in. And so on the front side, I'm going to glue one of the plain eggs, and on the back side, I'm going to glue one of the Easter eggs. Now, I think it probably would have been easier had I just simply glued the egg together without the Spanish moss between, but I thought that this would help hide the fact that it's a half egg and that there is a different egg on the other side. Now, if I were to go back and do this all over again, I think I would skip the sparkly eggs. I think I would keep my eggs whole, and on one half I would paint it Eastery, and on the other half I would leave it, and then I would just put Spanish moss between them. But you know, there's a lot of different ways to do the same type of craft, and this ends up working. It ends up cute. But I think it would have been simpler had I done it the way that I just explained. So as you see here, I'm just gluing them all together into this Spanish moss. Once I get all the eggs in and glued, I'm just taking and adding the other side of the cage. and I'm going to take 3 zip ties and zip tie it at each section. Now, I have seen these done with big wreath forms and the regular sized eggs, and they're just super cute, but I wanted something that was reversible so that I could switch it out for Easter and then it could be kept up all year long on the other side. Once I get all the zip ties in and secured, I start moving around the eggs and trimming around the moss and just tidying up and just kind of moving the eggs so that from the front you can't see the other egg on the other side and vice versa. And then, like you said here, I'm just trimming out the moss and tidying up. I go around the outside, I trim up the moss, and then I will also go back and trim off the ends of the zip ties. But before I trim up the ends of the zip ties, I go back and tighten them a little. Once I get everything situated the way I want, I go ahead and tighten them up so nothing is going to fall out. And then I take and trim off the ends. And back to the sign, I designed these and cut them out on the Cricut. And this is just Dollar Tree vinyl. And I am just using contact paper to transfer it. And so on one side, I am going to put this Farm Fresh eggs. And then on the other side, which I had already done, I put the Farm Fresh Easter eggs. And then I am just going to slip this inside. It just fits kind of perfect, and I'm just putting it down inside and getting it between the 2 wreath forms. And then when you flip it over, you have your Farm Fresh eggs, and then on the other side, you have your Farm Fresh Easter eggs. So stick around to the end. We'll hang it up and see what it looks like. To make these decor pieces in fake terracotta and cement look, you will need mini pots from the Dollar Tree. They come in a pack of 3 for $1.25. Styrofoam bunnies comes in a pack of 12, so we're going to say about 25 cents for 2 of them. Paint, hot glue, flowers, Spanish moss, and floral foam. Total for this project, $1.50. This project is all about the paint and making some little bunnies look like terracotta and cement. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to paint them. I thought that this would work good on a skewer, but the skewer kept slipping out. So you just got to get your hands messy is what I was thinking. And then it occurred to me to do the tape trick. And so I got smart after giving them each a coat and stuck them on some masking tape. And it went a lot quicker after that. And the only other thing I did to my bunnies, because they'll be sitting on a metal tray, is I put a little bit of self-adhesive magnetic strip on the bottom of them. In hindsight, I wish I would have gone back and distressed them in some form or fashion, or possibly added like some baking soda to the paint to give it a little bit more texture. And with the terracotta one, I feel like maybe some matte Mod Podge over the top, but I have simply run out of time. While I had the 2 paint colors mixed and out, I thought it would be fun to do these little pots in those colors as well. So I did 2 in the terracotta and 1 in the cement. And then I just took some floral foam and glued into the bottom of them, and then glued some Spanish moss over that. And then that way I can change out the florals in them, which was the next step. I just took and added some florals. I got quite a bit of hot glue in there, so I had to poke myself a hole to be able to put the florals in and out. But I want to be able to change these up however I see fit. And so I just made a hole in the floral foam and then stuck the flower in there, and then I can change them out as I like. And that's it for our terracotta and cement look-alike items. Stick around to the end to see them all completed. All right, let's take a peek. So we've got the Hoppy Easter hanging up here, and I do like the way this turned out. I hope people don't think I just misspelled happy. But you guys will have to let me know what you think of this one in the comments. And then next we have our really old bunny. He's very antiqued, but I like the way he turned out. He's wrinkled, but that's just the nature of when you're decoupaging something like this. I would like to try it again and see if I can do a little bit better job, but he is good enough. And then we have our carrot sign, and I am also really liking the way this turned out. It just looks really vintage and old, and you could put as many carrots or as few as you would like in it. And then we have our wreath, and on this side we have our farm fresh Easter eggs. And then on this side, just farm fresh eggs. So it is reversible, so you can keep it up all year long and then just flip it around for Easter time. Finally, we have our fake cement and our fake terracotta bunny and pots. So you guys are going to have to let me know what you think of all of these projects. Which one is your favorite? Would you ever recreate any of these? I love to hear from you. I really, really enjoy reading through comments. I appreciate you taking the time to join me today. Be sure to check out the playlist. Thanks to all my subscribers. You make this possible. And if you are new to my channel, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button if you like what you saw. Take care. Bye-bye.